Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and our 56th coffee stream. And it's Friday, so that means it's guest day. And today I have Skep Talk with me. Say hi, Skep Talk.
Hi, Skep. It's nice to see everybody. Hey, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I have some. I saw something that happened yesterday that got kind of a lot of frothy reaction from Twitter. A lot of superficial reaction, but I didn't really hear a lot of exploration of what the implication of what Laura Loomer did yesterday. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, Laura Loomer is a conservative Jewish Twitterati who has had a big following, and Twitter banned her basically for being Jewish. I'm being Jewish and conservative. That it's really not much more than that. She was so angry about it, she went to Twitter headquarters in downtown Manhattan, took a pair of, those kind of kryptonite handcuffs, the kind you can't cut through with bolt cutters. You have to use acid or a welding torch, and handcuffed herself to the front door of Twitter.
As one does.
Which you do. Right. And had an assistant throw the key down a sewer, evidently. That's at least one story that I heard. Certainly the key was not available. I mean, it was not going to happen. And she just said, I'm going to stay here. I'll pee in my pants. I'll do whatever I have to, but I'm going to stay here until I get some movement out of Twitter. I'm going to I'm going to do what I can to embarrass Twitter and shame them basically for what they did. Now, if you look at Laura Loomer's tweets, she's one of these, outrage specialists who hangs on the edge of conservative Twitter. But the tweets for which she was banned were not really that bad. And Twitter even said that, she was banned kind of for her body of work for repeatedly violating the terms of service of Twitter. And that may or may not be. But Twitter has acting as a censor, has to kind of forfeit the if you act as a censor, you essentially are a publisher. If you are a publisher, you start to take some liability for the things that are said as part of your publishing house.
Right.
If Twitter is like a phone company and doesn't censor, anybody can make a phone call and say whatever they want. It's not monitored by Twitter. Then that's a different story. Then they're more like a public utility, and they don't have that liability. People can't come back to them and say, I want to recover damages because of something someone said using your using Twitter.
Yeah.
So in Laura doing this and being essentially censored by Twitter, I think Twitter has walked away from the public utility status and is much more like a publisher now. That being the case, that has a gigantic problem for Twitter. The lawyers will be queuing up to sue the crap out of them for everything because of all the outrageous stuff that gets said on Twitter. I mean, the old saying, Twitter is cancer, and there's some truth in that. There's a lot of nasty stuff that gets said on Twitter. Anyway, I just wondered what you thought about Laura Loomer's move in doing this, not necessarily about what she is or how outrageous or not outrageous she is, but the mechanics of what she did and what it means for Twitter and what your feelings are about censorship and free speech in a more general sense.
I think it was incredibly short-sighted for her to do that.
Really?
Because I think she just got so angry that her account got taken down.
Exactly. She was like blind with rage, right?
Yeah, she didn't stop to
no pun intended.
She didn't stop to think about what would happen, like what it would mean.
Uh-huh.
It really, like you said, this kind of shows that Twitter is moving away from the public utility and becoming more of a publisher. And that's not going to bode well for either the platform or for the people on it. And I don't think that she thought about that. I think she was just, I want my account back, and I'm going to act like a suffragette to get it.
Yeah.
And
yes, exactly.
because as soon as I
Parkhurst, right?
yeah, as soon as I heard that she cuffed herself to the door, I thought about the suffragettes like chaining themselves to
right.
And it's like, really, you're gonna do that over a Twitter account?
The old suffragette song, "Take Heart for Mrs. Parkhurst" has been clapped in irons again.
Yes, exactly. It's like you just, there's a time and a place for protest, and that particular type of protest, but I don't think that was the time.
Yeah, I think she was so angry. She just shut down all the kind of her higher thought processes and went into a rage, basically, and said, I'm just going to, shit the bed in public.
She's the one that faked the slashing of her own tires, right?
Yes, that's Laura.
Yeah.
Laura is, and when she did that, I wrote her off. I said, that's damaged goods. I'm too old and too mean, to deal with damaged goods. I can't fix everybody. And I'm not going to try and root through the good and the bad. I felt the same way about, the black lady who's all red pilled.
What the hell is her name?
It's just a splash page, bro.
Yeah.
And when that she still has that site still is active. Did you know that?
Oh, Candace Owens.
That site, you Candace Owens. You still get the splash page from her old site, that old doxing site that she had. So she's just a complete opportunist. And I sort of tarred Laura Loomer with the same brush. You remember that those two things kind of happened at the same time, roughly the same time, within a month or so of each other. And I sort of said, oh, Laura Loomer's like Candace Owens. I think Candace Owens happened first. And I thought, Laura Loomer is another damaged, creature who's now going to pander to conservatives for attention. Screw that. I don't need that. That's not who I want in my circle, and so forth. But I have to say something about what she did. What else? There's only one other thing that I can think that would get Twitter's attention the way that Laura Loomer did yesterday. And it would be what I would do if I were an attorney, which is I would file a class action lawsuit and just start I'd be going through Twitter just saying, anybody who has a beef with Twitter, tweet me, DM me, bro. And I'd hire 3 or 4 people to, sort through that and put together a class action suit that basically would make me the lawyer, the owner of Twitter when it was adjudicated, when the offer was made. The offer would be made in Twitter shares. And because if Twitter crosses the bridge, becomes the publishing house, they are in just a completely untenable position, because they have relied so heavily on that barrier to corporate liability that was provided by them being a public utility type company. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And in doing that, they have dug their grave. They not only dug their grave, they constructed a mausoleum, and set themselves on fire, basically. So, and
it's really amusing to me, because companies like Twitter and Facebook, because Facebook's doing the same thing.
Oh, Facebook is farther down that road even than Twitter is.
And it's really amusing to see these two companies dig their own graves.
Right.
And then to see Google drop a nuke on something like Gab.
Right, I know.
And it's like,
really?
Okay, so do you guys want no social media? Like what?
What precisely did you think you were doing there? Yeah, I have trouble understanding what the long-term strategy is there. I really
Yeah,
truly do.
yeah.
They're fucked. Zuckerberg is a whole different story. But in other news yesterday, so that's kind of what I want to talk about, Laura Loomer. I had one other bee in my bonnet, so to speak, that I wondered if you reacted to yesterday, and that was the stuff with Mark Lamont Hill.
No, I didn't react to that. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, Mark Lamont Hill is or was, he's now been fired, a commentator for CNN.
Okay.
Now he's a black dude who is very anti-Semitic. He hates Jews. He hates, he loves Farrakhan, hates Jews. Okay, that's
All right
just where
then.
he comes from. He's a Keith Ellison guy. So he's a commentator, and he gets up in front of the United Nations and says, I want Palestine to be from the river to the sea, which is code. This is nothing but code for kill the Jews, destroy Israel, give the area to the Arabs who are pledged to destroy Israel and destroy the Jews, to kill every Jew. Hamas, it's in their charter to destroy Israel, kill the Jews. You run them into the sea, march them into the sea, to drive them out or kill them. And he came out in favor of that. He repeatedly, just put down Israel and then called for the destruction of Israel in his UN speech.
Good
well,
Lord.
That was too much even for CNN. CNN said, you can't be calling for the destruction of Israel. You're fired. Your ass is fired. Now, he came out and defended himself on Twitter, saying that, well, my remarks were taken out of context, and that remark from the river to the sea is, it's an old folk tale, and, it predated Israel and blah, 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 blah. That's bullshit. Everybody knows what it means. There was no doubt what he was saying. It was a huge dog whistle. And, I hear Hezbollah is hiring, so maybe you can get on with them. But
yeah, maybe.
He's, it's a symptom of a larger problem, and that is left-wing anti-Semitism. When I was in college back in the 1800s, the left, the Democrats, back in the 70s, 1970s, just for everybody. The Democrats were left-wing, and they were very pro-Jewish.
Yes.
And a lot of them were Jewish. And they were pro-state of Israel and anti. They recognized the fact that Arab armies had gotten together and attacked Israel several times. Dotty little Israel had gotten itself together and fought them off, sometimes completely by itself. And something has changed since then, to where they perceive Jewish people as having control of big industry, and they start to hate the Jews based on the fact that they think that they're rich and privileged and in control, and that they only help their own and this and that, as opposed to seeing the way that I see them, which is they're a little country that built an oasis of plenty out of nothing through their own hard work and industry, with very favorable trade agreements from the United States, no doubt about that. But those were available to anybody who wanted them, anybody who wanted to be an ally of the United States and be friends with us. We would have offered that same thing to anybody else. The Palestinians chose a different road. They chose to be butthurt about the fact that Israel got a chunk of the Transjordan, carved out for the Israeli home state. And this was largely a reaction to the fact that 6 million of them had been killed in World War II. And now you're getting another wave of Holocaust deniers. I can't believe how much crap there is out there saying that, well, there really weren't 6 million people killed during World War II. That's absolute bullshit. That's very well documented. I mean, that was taken as I mean, that's just gospel
There
truth.
are photos. There are photos.
Yes, yes.
Of the liberation of the concentration camps. I don't understand how you can say that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Exactly. Just the rooms full of shoes and dentures and little children's clothes. It breaks your heart. And to hear these assholes, and there's no other word for them, deny that it's absolutely infuriating to me, Blind.
It's very strange to me that the left is dabbling in Holocaust denial. It seems like somewhere some right wingers decided that maybe they should go left, but they're going to bring their anti-Semitism with them.
Yes.
It's very strange because most of the time that's what you heard from actual white supremacists.
Right. And the things that they say are not different from Billy Bob down in South Alabama. And I can say that because my family comes from South Alabama. So, anybody who thinks I'm picking on them, shut up. They come from Bayman, Alabama. That's where my folks come from. But, that they think that kind of anti-Semitism is limited to those kinds of people. No. This same kind of anti-Semitism is coming from the Starbucks in Boston and New York. This is.
It's almost like they hate the Jews because capitalism.
Yes, because capitalism, exactly. And what is the greatest force for economic achievement in the history of mankind? Is it socialism? No. Is it communism? No. We've seen what communism does. We've seen what socialism does. We've seen it again and again and again. And don't give me the Ocasio-Cortez thing. Well, this hasn't been tried correctly. Bullshit. It's been tried every which way but loose. They can't get it correct because there's several things that are wrong. But most importantly, there's no incentive to develop new things. And there is incentive to be sclerotic and to go for the secure and the safe and the unchanging, which basically stops a society. That's what ends up happening in socialism. It just happens a little slower than it happens in communism. Communism tends to just get real poor really fast. You get kind of an oligarchy the way that Cuba or Vietnam is.
Well, there's a reason that during the two great wars that Russia was floundering for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Bolsheviks did not do anything to help.
They couldn't produce the munitions too. I mean, they had all sorts of logistical problems too. So, yeah, it's I don't know. I don't have a lot of answers. I have a lot of questions these days.
Is it wrong that when Cortez did that flub of the branches of government, I had to take everything in me not to tweet her the YouTube link to Schoolhouse Rock's The Three Rings of the. Do you remember that song?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. There were several things I thought of. There was a Dr. Seuss thing about the branches of government that I thought maybe I could turn her on to and give her the Amazon link to that book. It's a nursery rhyme, like a school. Like something that a third grader would read, the three branches of government.
Yeah.
She is so intellectually lazy and so superficial that I actually think this is going to come back and bite the Democrats. Essentially what she is she's an attractive young woman who is a committed communist. Mm-hmm. She's a communist. She really believes in she reminds me of a lot of kids I went to school with, and they went down to Cuba to help in the cane fields over summer, and they came back and they were heroes. We thought they were great. I was a leftist back in the day. Mm-hmm. Bill Ayers, I thought he was a great guy back in 1972. He was part of the Chicago 8 and Rennie Davis and Abby Hoffman, all those guys. We looked up to those people. We were. It was a strange time because people don't realize they think that Trump is evil. Trump's
I
not
haven't seen
evil.
evil.
He's not evil. He's selfish.
Oh yeah.
He's piggish, and he's you know
Shouldn't have
very
access to Twitter,
superficial.
probably.
Well, actually, I like it because we can see what he really is. And he's not the guy, I would want necessarily to lead the company, but he's a fairly competent project manager, and he's treating the job like a project management job, which is dangerous in the long term, but it's pretty efficient in the short term. So he's doing I do what Ben Shapiro says. I call balls and strikes with Trump. When he does something that makes me cringe, like setting up tariffs, I just go, what are you thinking? When he does something like say, no, we're going to, stop these people at the border, I go, yes, that's the right thing to do. So balls and strikes.
Yep.
And I treat him that way. The thing you run into with Trump, the Trump derangement syndrome, is people just look at him and they become enraged. They're so pissed off that he's the president of the United States. They're so pissed off that, they think he's a greedy, fat capitalist, which is exactly what he is, in a lecher, and he's got all these things that do not recommend him, aside from that. But he's actually doing a fairly good job managing our economy, and our foreign policy is much stronger than it was under Barack Obama, basically because he gets out there and says, you don't know what to expect from me. I might really fuck you up. Okay, so just have a care. And he did that with Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un poodled right up, man. He's now Trump's little dog. And Trump knows how to do that. Trump knows how. The other thing is Trump has years and years and years of negotiating with people from the Far East, from China and Japan. He knows culturally what to do and what not to do with those people, and he has people on his staff who know how to handle that kind of stuff. And he handled Kim Jong-un like a boss. He just absolutely did beautifully. And so in terms of that, we have a much stronger president than Barack Obama, who basically was a Justin Trudeau, only black. He was a weak, poor leader who went around apologizing and wimpified America. He
cried during a freaking speech.
Yeah, come on, man.
Like, I understand that it was a sad thing that he was, because it was Newtown.
Yeah.
Right? I understand that little children dying is awful.
Yes.
But you're the president.
You're supposed to be strong. You're a leader.
You need to marshal yourself.
Suck it up, bitch.
And just be calm, and like, you can express your sorrow without breaking down in tears as the leader of a nation.
I agree. And Alan Smith makes an interesting point in chat. He says appeasement never works. Just look at 1935, 39. And he's absolutely right. Obama was one who would have been much more like a Neville Chamberlain, peace in our time, well, peace in your time never seems to work out that way. And if you keep feeding other people to the wolf, what happens when you run out of other people? The wolf comes for you. And that's what happened with Nazi Germany. And I'm pretty convinced that China, and to a lesser extent Russia, have some long-term imperialistic ambitions.
Yeah.
China thinks it can own the United States through owning our debt. And in this, we've got a nasty surprise for them. We're not ever going to pay off our debt. That's the truth. We're not ever going to pay off our debt. What we will do at some point is have to revalue our currency. When that happens, we will go into 3 or 4 years of recession and maybe even depression. Our GDP will fail to grow for a while. And while we settle that out, we're basically going to declare bankruptcy. The geometry of our debt right now is it's not payable.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mechanism by which we can even continue to pay the debt service for longer than about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And the rule of 72 is merciless. One of the people ask, why are interest rates so low? Why do you think they're so low? You know why? Because we have a whole bunch of debt. And in order to pay service on that debt, we have to issue new debt.
Yeah.
The rule of 72 says that any debt issued, okay, if you were divided by 72 by the interest rate, you'll have the number of years it takes to double that debt. So you want to keep that number very low, don't you? So that's and that is why the Fed and the government controls monetary policy, and the government knows what's going on with debt. You can look for interest rates to stay low for a very, very long time for that reason. Mm-hmm. Fast little economics lesson here. I'll trade on my MBA for a minute. And but yeah, that's basically what's going on with the interest rates. And you can probably rely on those to be stable for a very long time. And the stock market has realized that the stock market is always a leading indicator of the economy, and so the stock market is going gangbusters, and will continue to go gangbusters for a while. You'll have some corrections back, but those are technical corrections. So it's little price adjustments that they're not lasting. The trend is going to be up for a long time. Little trade on my years as a Merrill Lynch stockbroker there.
What's your opinion on Obama's little speech there the other day? Because it sounded to me like listening to Trump with Obama's voice.
Yeah, exactly. He was doing his Trump impersonation.
He really was.
Let me tell you how great I am. It's really a bad look for Obama. He didn't have much going for him in terms of his personality. He's not a very likable man, and his wife is even less likable. But he could be kind of self-effacing at times. And that was when I thought he was the most likable, was when he, making a little fun at himself, especially like at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I thought he did, a pretty good job at that. So when he comes out and says, let me tell you how great I am. But people, that's me. People, that's me. Well, no, it's not you, first of all. And secondly, you did nothing for this. So what you're saying is laughable, and it's really a bad look. It
is.
It's, even the left, it's interesting. I follow some lefties, and they are cringing. They didn't like what he said either. So, yeah, it's a bad look. He didn't do the things that you need to do to lead the country into greatness, into positive economic territory during the time he was president. He didn't do those hard things. He didn't pick up the challenge. And as a result, for him to come up and say, this is me, folks. Well, it's not him. It's basically the country reacting when he took his thumb off the scale. Mm-hmm. The day Trump was inaugurated, the thumb on the scale was removed. And business was very smart about that. And business rushes in for opportunity. And that's why suddenly, the banks felt more comfortable investing. So the cost of capital decreased. When cost of capital decreases, the United States just goes absolutely hog wild. We just do very well when cost of capital goes down. Capital gets loose in this country. And right now, cost of capital is as low as it's been in a very long time. It's easy to borrow money if you're a big company. So there you go. I don't know how I go on and on. I'm like Chatty Cassie, just pull my string and I start talking.
That's fine, because I couldn't find very many. There's a bunch of news stories in my Discord, but they're all really sad, and I didn't want to read them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There's enough sadness in the world. There are times when I just go and troll like there's a Twitter account I follow. I forget what it's called. It's like cute puppies or something.
Mm.
And I just troll that to just for some pleasantry, or listen to some music. Yesterday I was really upset by the Martin Lamont Hill thing and the anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism really bothers me because I think the Jews have had a tough time of it. And
forever.
Forever. I mean, I've been kicked around, since basically since Abraham thought the whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm just going to listen to some Pink Floyd and forget about it.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I listened to like 2 hours of Pink Floyd yesterday, and I felt better. It was therapeutic. So music is kind of my therapy for getting out of bad moods.
Exactly. Like now that the kids are in school, I just put on some music and I just sing.
Yeah.
As loud as I can. Like, because before, like, you can't really sing, like, you can, but you sing more quietly and stuff so you don't disturb people.
Yeah.
But now, like, I've got no one in the house, so I can just make use of my vocal training and just freaking belt out.
Yep.
And it's, whatever music you put on, you just sing along. And
Yeah, absolutely. There's that. And I have to tell you about. So I told my grandkids love computer games. They love all the Minecraft stuff.
Okay.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
You name it, they're into it. And the 13-year-old is starting to play more sophisticated games and so forth. And so I was telling all four of them. I said, I know a lady who's blind and she's a gamer. And the 13-year-old said no. I mean, she knew absolutely you cannot play computer games and be blind. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I said she does it, and I started to explain to her how you do it, and what you need help with, and the parts that you construct in your mind and keep current in your mind. And they were absolutely thunderstruck that somebody could play games on the computer and be blind. And I said, so if you ever think you can't do something, I want you to remember the blind lady, my friend Blind Press. And then we kind of degenerated into a discussion. Why do you call her Blind Press? Explaining. How do you explain what the press does to a 13-year-old? So, yeah, and two 9-year-olds, and an 11-year-old. So anyway, but it was a very interesting conversation, and Grampy explaining Blind Press to the kids.
Cracked wants to know, what's your favorite Floyd album?
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
It depends on which era. Obviously, Dark Side of the Moon. For that era, I love that. A wonderful album that is consistently underrated by everybody is Division Bell, obviously, and Animals also is another one that doesn't get enough credit. The Wall was an astounding album. Wish You Were Here. I love all those. In fact, those were like the 5 albums I listened to yesterday. But those are some of my favorite. In terms of absolute creativity, I would say that The Wall was the most creative and amazing of the albums. But for sheer musicianship, for pure music, I don't think they ever topped. They got close, but I don't think they ever topped Dark Side of the Moon. So,
Jay Reynolds is asking me, in streams with lots of chat, how does the TTS not drive you crazy? Do you have filters that only read you certain ones? No, I have to swipe left and right on my screen and basically go through every message.
Hey, Blind, I'm going to be right back, hon.
Okay, FedEx guy's here.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
Hang on.
Skep is running off to answer the door for the FedEx man. But yeah, I listen. I basically have to swipe through and listen to every message. So yeah, that's funny. That's what I do. There's a Skep's doggy. I think that's the beagle or the dachshund. I'm trying to guess by bark. Oh my poor BP, that has to be a pain. It's only a pain if you're not used to it. If you're used to it like me, it's just Metallica. I like everything Black Album and before. Dog wants to be on the mic now. Yep. Have I learned to divide my audio attention? Yes. I used to, as a little kid, used to be able to listen to an audiobook on tape, read a completely different book in Braille, and have conversations with my mom. So I
Settle down now.
Can definitely do that. Was that the dachshund?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Was that the dachshund or the beagle?
That was the dachshund. Yeah, the beagle was a tenant, just a loner, and I just have the two dachshunds now. Yeah, we periodically have dogs who come to stay with us. Sometimes we get the Rhodesian Ridgeback, and he's a great dog. He was one of my favorite dogs. He's a giant dog. He's absolutely the strongest dog I've ever owned, and I've owned some big ones. And he just casually tears up our fence.
Oh God!
And I have to go out and I literally have to do fence work after the dog's been here, because he's so strong. He just pushes his paw through a stockade fence.
Oh my!
He really is strong.
Is that the Ridgeback?
Yeah, the Rhodesian Ridgeback. He's huge. He's big for a Rhodie, and it's all muscle. He's just like, the United States Navy SEAL team of dogs. Amazing dog. Can run 35 miles an hour.
God damn.
Yeah, he's really fast. He can jump over a 5-foot fence on a dead run and not touch the top.
Wow.
Seen him do it. Absolutely.
That's craziness.
Yeah, and just has astonishing speed.
I really hope
Hawksilk had a Ridgeback, evidently. Yeah, once you have a Rhodesian Ridgeback, it spoils you. They're so wonderful, and yeah, they have big sweethearts. Correct, absolutely.
I hope I get accepted for that guide dog, because
yeah, I do.
I have the interview on Tuesday, and
gonna ask you where you were on that. So Tuesday, are they gonna come over and interview?
Yeah, they come out to my house on Tuesday, and they basically have to look around my house to make sure that I don't live in filth and that the dog's not gonna have stuff to eat off the floor and all that stuff.
Rats, yeah.
And they also need to see how I travel so that they can submit all of that to the acceptance committee. And what they do is, they go over my application. They go over the report from my orientation worker who helps me learn new routes. So she has to fill something out and tell them my travel, how I travel, what my skills are like, how long she's been my instructor. Basically whether or not I have support from that area. And then they also go over my medical report from my doctor to make sure that I don't have any like extraneous illnesses or whatever that will keep me from using the dog, or if I have balance issues. Because there are some blind people that do have other medical issues. Sometimes their blindness is a secondary cause of their illnesses. So they need to make sure that you're like physically healthy enough to take care of and use a dog. And after all of that is gone through, they even have to watch. They're like, I'm going to be videoed on Tuesday, like as I travel. And they're after all of that gets watched and read and all that, then they decide whether I qualify for a dog. And then they have to find the correct dog to match how I walk and like how often I travel. And they need to find one that, in my case, will be good with kids. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into making sure that you get a good match, especially if you're not going to the school to do your training. If because they want to make sure that they don't have to keep coming out to your house, especially if it's internationally. They want to make sure that they're placing the dog and the handler in a good match. So it's a lot.
It's but it's good. I think it's setting you up for success. And you don't have any problem with being allergic to dogs, right?
No
problem with pets or anything like that, because that was the only thing I could think of. Knowing you, I know you've got all the other stuff covered. If you don't have an allergy, I think you're going to be fine.
Nope, I don't have allergies to dogs. I'm just basically I think it would be good because I need to get my ass out of the house more. And this will help, and especially in the summertime when Alex isn't in school. We'll be able to go and do more things, travel more, and it'll be really a lot of goodness. I hope I get accepted.
No, I think you will. And I don't think that, I mean, if they don't accept you, I would have a hard time understanding who they would accept. You're almost a perfect candidate for it. Are they going to, I mean, marijuana is legal in Canada. Am I right?
It is.
Okay.
The only thing I'm going to do is just not smoke before they show up on Tuesday.
It's probably smart.
Just in case.
That's probably smart.
Because they're from New York State, and I don't think it's legal there yet.
Yeah, I don't know what the interesting thing. The interesting thing about New York is it's legal in Massachusetts. Medicinal is legal in New York. And so Boston is, less than 2 hours away from New York, right? So it's not like it would be exactly hard to get. And the places to sell it are just, they're popping up like mushrooms in the spring.
Yeah.
This is a drug whose time has come. This is an amusement that has been long denied. It's like forbidden fruit right now. It's going to be very, very popular as it gets approved. And down here, I'm in Texas. I'm in North Texas. Or North Central Texas, actually.
Yeah.
And but I'm a day's drive from Colorado. I can drive to Colorado in 11 hours. Well, less than 11 hours. I can be there in 9 hours in southern Colorado and buy all the pot I want.
Yeah.
And drive it back if I so desired to do it.
Yes.
But if you get caught in Texas, your first offense is 2 to 5 years. You're going to get 2 years in jail. Now, you'll only do a quarter of that. You'll only do 6 months for a first offense, with good behavior and stuff. But you will go to prison. You will go to prison for possession of a joint. That's if you have a joint. If you have something like 3 or 4 ounces, your first stop's going to be 5 years, and you'll do a lot of that time.
And that's trafficking. You'll get hit for.
Right. Exactly. And you'll get like a 5 to 20 year sentence. First offense.
And I've heard stories that the federal, like the Border Patrol, is turning away Canadians because they not because they have weed on them,
right?
But because they have smoked it,
right?
Recently,
yeah.
And it's like, it's legal there. Why are you punishing me for doing something that's legal in my country before I come over here?
Well, the thing is to be intoxicated, to be under the influence. That's one of the things that is illegal. And so crossing the border would be to commit an illegal act in a technical sense.
That's true.
I mean, proving it, and it's not really enforceable, but that's written into the law. So yeah, that's but Michigan, isn't it legal in Michigan now?
Yes, recreational was just voted in the midterms. So,
God, Ann Arbor's going to be. I mean, Ann Arbor was crazy in 1970. When I was there, if you wanted dope, all you had to do was, and I smoked a lot of it back in the day. All you had to do was walk down to the Arboretum, and there were plenty of guys ready to sell it to you.
I'm gonna mute real quick and check on something. I'll be right back.
I can sing and dance.
Okay.
I'll talk to chat.
That works.
Love that we have so many people in chat today. I'm my friend Jesse's here, and Lindsay and Chadwick. Nice to see you guys. And Rolling Bear is there. Very nice. Michael. And let's see, what do we got here? What are we talking about? Jesse, yep, I got lucky and met somebody's decent. Okay. From what I hear, this bill is supported by both Democrats and Republicans. Lindsay, what are you talking about? There's apparently a bill that is going to go through Congress that will give more leeway to the states in regards to food and drug regulations. Yes, I did hear about that. And that the Democrats and Republicans are both in back of that. I think it is going to go through. Basically, it will turn off the federal ban on recreational weed, which would be a good thing. And when that happens, a very interesting thing will happen. The banks cannot open an account for someone who sells marijuana. All the businesses in Colorado and Massachusetts, Michigan, can't use a bank that's guaranteed by the FDIC, because a bank that starts an account for somebody who's breaking the law loses their FDIC protection. So no bank will open an account for those people. So that's all a cash business. It's 100% cash. You can't use a credit card. It is all cash on the barrelhead. You go in. You can't even write a check. You have to use cash in order to do that. And these guys have safes and bodyguards, and it's just it's a real problem. And they basically take their money and surreptitiously rent safety deposit boxes in banks and keep their money in the safety deposit boxes. And the banks know that this is happening, but they look the other way because all that stuff is, you can rent a safety deposit box for whatever you want as long as it's not radioactive. You can store it in there. So, but it has historically been a cash business because the banks are forbidden by this federal regulation from doing business with somebody who sells pot. So the effect of the bill in Congress will be to turn that prohibition off, and then these people can, who run these pot shops will be able to open bank accounts, commercial accounts for their accounts. And of course, the banks will like that because it's basically a cash business, and it's a business that's likely to succeed, and that's good for banks.
Money is good.
Money is good. So yeah, we're talking about the bill that's coming up, bubbling up in the U.S. Congress to essentially get rid of the federal prohibition on recreational weed. And
I think it would be a good thing.
Turn off the enforcement. Yeah, that would be a very good thing. So I'm really hopeful for that. I mean, for one thing, and people, I don't know if people know this, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 14 years. It's not a big deal. But marijuana is not a trigger for me. Alcohol it would be a trigger for me, but marijuana is not. And marijuana has a lot of salutary effects, a lot of helpful effects for people with ailments, from everything from fibromyalgia to rheumatoid arthritis.
Yep.
People who have anxiety, people who are depressed, people who have even tinnitus, the ringing in the ear. Pot seems to essentially completely cure that in about half of the people who try that. They're trying to understand why that works. There are a lot of positive effects smoking dope can do, and they've been hawking this CBD, the cannabis oil. And, whether or not you get the tetrahydrocannabinol or you just get the cannabinoids from the cannabinol oil, I don't know what's doing the job, but what I do know is that it's a lot safer and better for you than alcohol, period.
Yep.
It just is. I mean, alcohol is basically poison. What you're doing is poisoning your body to deprive your brain of a little bit of oxygen, to change the way oxygen is exchanged in your brain. And it gives you a feeling of being high. That's why people drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And it doesn't taste very good. The entire alcohol industry is all about disguising the taste of alcohol. And I'm not down on alcohol. I don't have a problem with it at all. If you like it, knock yourself out. But most people naturally do not like it. If you put a Scotch bottle under a baby's nose, it will avert its head.
Yeah.
Okay. You will never get a child who will naturally say, hey, beer tastes good, or, any of it tastes good. Even wine doesn't really taste particularly good. It tastes a little bit less offensive. And if you really sweeten it up, like the Moselle wines, the Rhine wines,
yeah,
or May wines, you put a bunch of spice in it, Woodruff and stuff like that, that you can make it more acceptable, but it's still, you're still imbibing poison. You can put all the grape juice or tomato juice or whatever you want, or margarita mix you want in it, but you're still trying to disguise the taste of something that is related to turpentine chemically. And so as a result, I think smoking pot is a lot better for you. I mean, if you want the recreational high, enjoy some pot, and and sit back, put on the headphones, listen to music. Don't go
Pink
driving
Floyd
the car.
and pot.
Pardon me?
Pink Floyd and pot.
Absolutely. Order up a pizza, have some fun, enjoy your life. And I as a libertarian, it just makes me crazy that we spend taxpayer money to prevent people from smoking pot. Stop that. It's a waste of money. It's a complete waste of money and time. People are getting killed for no reason. We've criminalized an entire generation of black men because of our drug laws.
Pot is so, I wouldn't have been able to quit smoking cigarettes if I didn't smoke pot.
And I've heard that from more than one person. I believe that it really is an aid in giving up smoking. So, it's I don't know. I've known alcoholics who went on, we call it marijuana maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And to varying degree, they have success with it. I've known people who smoke pot long term. I don't smoke pot. I don't do anything. I don't do anything fun. But if it were legal in Texas, I would probably take it back up and smoke it occasionally because I like the feeling. I used to love the feeling of being high in college, and I understand it's much better than what we smoked back in the day.
It's a nice, like it's, somebody said earlier in chat, I'd rather be drunk or high than drunk. And
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Drunk.
When I'm high, I'm still coherent.
Yes. And
I don't feel sick.
And a pot hangover, all you feel is a little bit disconnected. You don't have a headache. You're not throwing up. You just kind of a little bit out of it when you wake up.
Yeah.
And that goes away rather rapidly.
Cup of coffee and
you're good to go.
Yeah.
So anyway. So, okay. So we're pro free speech, pro pot.
Yes.
What else are we? We're pro games. And what's Pincalo been up to?
Skep or Pincalo's been driving.
Yeah.
Since about 7 this morning.
Is he listening by any chance?
He is.
Excellent. Hi, Pincalo.
Pincalo actually said, as somebody with tinnitus, I can tell you that it does help about 75%.
Yes. And you hear that again and again, is that it either helps a lot or gets rid of it entirely. And I think, why we are keeping this away from people who can benefit from it just because it makes you feel good. Really? Do we hate ourselves that much?
If it wasn't for pot, my sleep would be atrocious.
Yeah, that's the other thing is why it makes me sleep like I'm 20.
Yeah.
Old people have terrible sleep patterns. For those of you in chat who don't know, I'm old. And I just think young. I'm like many people of my generation, and I have trouble sleeping. I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, and I wake up at 4, and that's it. It's start the day. And I joke, and I say it's so we can get more out of the day in these last few pathetic years of our lives. But in point of fact, it's a pain in the ass because you feel tired half the time, but you can't really get to sleep because your sleeping mechanism isn't as well. If I could smoke a little weed before I go to bed, I sleep like a baby. So and I doubt that has changed.
No, I've had sleeping issues ever since I was a little kid because of being blind, and I tried.
It's a circadian rhythm thing, right?
It is, yeah.
You can't sense the light, and so you don't have the light and dark cycles.
Yeah, the sleep thing has always been an issue for me. Like I have trouble sleeping at night, and then I'll want to sleep during the day.
Can you do something with sound cues that would kind of cause you to have a normal rhythm? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out as a completely wild idea. I don't even know how you would do that. I don't know what you would do. Maybe the sounds of birds in the morning or something like that. I'm not sure what sundown would sound like, but something.
I'm not sure. I've never thought of that.
You're probably a good sign. Your mind isn't as sick as mine. But anyway, let's see.
Michelle says I have pills for that. Melatonin. I tried melatonin.
Yeah.
It actually made me more suicidal. Because when I was taking it, the bottle that it said on the pill bottle, "Do not take with depressive disorders." And I didn't actually tell my mother at the time that I was depressed because I didn't want her to worry about me because my stepfather had just left. And my sister was a toddler. So I was trying not to like let her know what was going on. And I started taking melatonin, and it made me like absolutely just batshit crazy.
Really?
And I've been afraid to try it ever since again. Because I just don't want to go back there.
Mm. You know, I'm reading while you're talking. I've been reading. Uh, is it Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle. Yeah.
Uh, and says I travel with stopover, so longest time dog is in plane. So is Michelle blind?
Yes, Michelle is blind. He's from the Netherlands, I believe.
Oh, I met him on one of your other
Yeah.
streams. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember you, Michelle.
So
I'm
he
sorry.
travels to see his girlfriend in the States.
Very good. That's somebody who doesn't care that he's blind, and it's harder than it looks to find those at times. Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
that.
there are some people that like I got lucky with Pincolo.
Yes,
Um
it
that
actually.
he
But so
doesn't
did he.
focus.
So did he. Just so you know. So did he.
Like his mother accused him at first of trying to find the damsel in distress and try and save me.
That's
And she did it while I was sitting right in front of her too. And I'm like,
well, that sucks.
really?
Yeah.
Hi, right here.
Yeah, you're supposed to do that in private. You know, it's something that is probably worth discussing to make sure that you understand what the attraction is, and that you're not trying to fix somebody or trying to
Yeah.
do a rescue. But you know, on the other hand, if you have a certain amount of maturity, you know what you're looking for, and you know when you're in love.
Yeah.
And you know when it's a realistic thing. You know when he uh, like I remember somebody, a friend of mine, was sponsoring an AA, and she was sitting there talking with me and her sponsor, who was a lady in AA, and we were just sitting there, and she was saying, "Yeah, you know, I found this guy. He's really good. It's just he only hits me when he gets mad."
Wait, what? And he's not a really good guy.
Yeah, he's a
He's a
good
piece
guy.
of shit.
He's a really good guy. He's a really good guy. But he gets mad sometimes, and you know, and I was sitting there looking at her, and I realized she was turned away from me, and so I excused myself to get a cup of coffee, and I realized she was turned away from me because she had a black eye
Mm,
that she had kind of put makeup over, and
yeah.
you know, she ended up actually being a stalwart in that AA group, and ditched the guy, you know, long
Oh,
since.
good.
But that was part of her maturing process, was evidently having to burn through a few bad relationships.
Yeah.
And yeah, she anyway. So you know what you want, and you know if there's going to be problems, that you know this just isn't going to work if you're considering a serious thing. And
There's a reason that on February 2nd of 2019, Pincalo and I will have been together for 12 years. There's a reason.
yep, well, because you enjoy each other.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because you know the the hot passion and love and all that kind of stuff. I don't care what you say. The friendship part is more important.
Yeah.
Being friends is more important. I think you have to have both. And I think you can have both, but the friendship part is what sustains you.
Yes.
If you're not friends, it will not last.
Yeah.
It will be, and it will be miserable before it's over.
Yeah.
Because once one side gives up on the other, that's it. And and that's the other thing, is that so many men can't have a relationship with a woman without thinking that they have to try and sleep with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I have known, a lot of men who that was their whole approach. They wanted to be, they have this romantic idea of friends with privileges. And they don't understand that that's a completely different, separate thing. Men don't compartmentalize the way that women do. With men, it's one big room. It's one big, messy room. Women have discrete little rooms in their mind where you go in this room to do this, you go to this room to do this, da 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 da. Men are not organized that way. Men come in the door and they throw their clothes on the floor and they flop down on the couch. And they go out on the balcony to take a leak, kind of a thing. It's sort of the way they are. And if they don't understand that about women, the problem is that you give up on 50% of the population with whom you could have good friendship.
Yeah.
If you would just give up on the idea of having to be romantic with them or having to have a physical relationship with them, they're perfectly good friends. And the other thing is, women are neither perfectly good or perfectly bad. They're human beings. Some are good. Some are. So I have met some women who were evil.
Yeah.
The most. Would you like to hear the story of the most evil woman I ever met?
Sure. Evil.
I'll tell you the story. I was the national director of networks for an $8 billion mortgage company and savings and loan. Colonial Savings. I'll dox myself a little bit here. And this was the. I had to hire. I had to fire our chief network guy, and for a variety of reasons, he was keeping vast amounts of drugs in his office, among other things. He was a wreck, and he thought he was absolutely unfireable. That's the reason why. And he learned that he wasn't, and I fired him, and I got rid of him, and the whole company breathed a sigh of relief. Turns out he was doing medical insurance fraud, and he got in all kinds of trouble later on. Anyway, so I got rid of that guy, and I had to hire a new network person. And I got somebody recommended to me. She said, I don't know this person well, but she's from Argentina. Mm-hmm. And she's very willing to learn. She's really smart. And her boyfriend is a big shot computer guy, Unix guy. And she's learning computers, and she might be somebody you could bring along. So I interviewed her, and she interviewed beautifully. I mean, she was really well put together, smart, positive attitude, everything else. She completely fooled me. Completely, her references, she fooled her references. She fooled everybody. She got in there, and within 2 weeks, she went to my boss and convinced him that I didn't know what I was doing, and that he needed to make her the head of the department. She was boop-shooby crazy. She was nuttier than the fruitcake.
2 weeks, she went to him. Wow.
And so I had to get up there and defend my capabilities as a first of all, with the workflow software that we had. The ViewStar system was an extensive system that I had been in charge of before I had ascended to the head of the department, and then my ability in the other areas, which she actually knew very, very little about. Right. And so I did that, embarrassed the hell out of her, and she told me that she and some of her Argentinian friends were gonna kill me. They're gonna burn my house down and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, of course they are.
Meanwhile, she actually offered my boss, who was in his 60s at the time, offered him sex if he would promote her to to head of the department.
Crazy bitch.
He came to me and he said, we've got to get rid of her. I said, yeah. And he said, she's already filed in, a sex discrimination thing. And we've heard from her lawyer. I said, great. And so she accused us of everything.
Wait,
anyway,
she filed a sex discrimination thing against you guys because she wanted to fuck the guy?
Exactly.
Okay.
He was really around the bend. So we got a letter of representation from her lawyer. And make a long story short, our attorney got together with her attorney, and together they investigated it. Then they found out she'd done this at 2 previous jobs. At that point, everything began to fall apart. Yeah, even her application for unemployment was disapproved, and she was fired forthwith. But she was somebody who I was so angry at and so furious at for having lied to me and having, violated my trust that badly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if I could have legally murdered her at the time, I would have done it. I was that angry with her. She cost that company so much money and time. It was time I didn't have. It was time that I had to spend away from my children, who were very small back then. And boy, that pissed me off. Man, that was a bad time. My 1997 was really bad.
Sounds like it.
It was a very tough time. And but the good news was I got an offer from the vendor, and it tripled my annual salary.
Oh.
And so I said, okay. And so I gave notice at Colonial Savings and went off to join the Silicon Valley. I thought this whole internet thing was going to go, and it turned out really well for me. So anyway, yeah, that was she was absolutely the most hateful person I've ever known. I come to find out later that a lot of Argentinians hate the United States. Do you know why?
No.
2 reasons. First of all, there was a sizable contingent of Germans who settled in Argentina.
I was going to ask if it had anything to do with that.
It does. That's part of it. And so the United States got a very bad rap from the Europeans, who the Germans and Austrians and other folk who had collaborated with the Nazis and came in and emigrated to Argentina in 1945. And then the other thing was that the United States sided with Britain in the Falklands dispute. That the Argentinians called the Malvinas. And they want those islands because they're just off the coast of Argentina, even though they've only ever been occupied by the British. The British have, done all the investing, have done all the improvements on the islands, made them habitable. And now that the cake has been baked, the Argentinians want to take it. And so they despise the United States for a number of reasons. And evidently, that was part of her antipathy toward us. She just felt like the people in the United States were not worth telling the truth to. That's part of her pathology. So
that's
crazy. So that's what it's like to be a senior manager at a large banking institution. Where you have these wonderful jobs. It was a job that paid a lot of money, and she was supposed to come in there and last for a long time, and be a very key player. And she could have had that. That's the sad thing. She could have had that, and she doesn't realize the opportunity she pissed away. So anyway.
Well, we're at 11:15, and I usually go till 20 after.
Okay. Should we go through chat and kind of?
So if there's anything chat wants to say, now is your time.
I noticed there was a thread earlier that my friend Jesse Gulf City Fennec Fox was talking about, and that was the metal and orchestra, heavy metal plus orchestra. And one of my very favorite recordings of all time is Metallica doing Sandman with the San Francisco Orchestra.
Have you heard they did Master of Puppets with the London Symphony Orchestra?
Yes, and that is another one of my favorites.
Beautiful. It was amazing.
That's almost hearing like Master of Puppets or Sandman. Mm. That's almost like a religious event for me.
Yeah,
I mean, it really has that kind. I'm dead serious in terms of the way it inspires me. It just gets me right down into my heart. I love that so much. So, and Jessie was talking about how much she likes that too. And I hear you, Jessie. I love that stuff. And Hawk Silk says the RGs can fuck off. The Falklands want to be British, and he Hawk is right. The Argentinians, are basically just being imperialist about the Falklands. The Falklands have always wanted to be British. They are British. They're as British as Britain is. Come on, man. So, let's come on, man. They've got a let's see. Haya says Zeppelin orchestrals have been pretty good too. That's true.
Yes,
Zeppelin
that is true.
Did some collaborations early on with the London Symphony, and was it Berlin? Did they do? I think they did one with. I think it was the Berlin Philharmonic.
Yeah,
that were just amazing to listen to. There was a Stairway to Heaven one. And I think that one was the one with the Berlin Philharmonic that is just an exceptional recording if you can get your hands on it. So, yeah, I like that stuff. I like all kinds of music with probably the exception of, I liked early rap, but I don't like the rap that's out now much. It's all sounding a lot of really similar.
And it's really annoying to hear people misspeak on purpose.
Yes.
If I hear one more rapper say "were" instead of "everywhere," I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yep. It's totes not cool. So, yeah, it makes me crazy to, Dr. Dre, back in the day, Jacob Navo, says, and, he, who was the, can't touch this, Hammer.
MC Hammer.
Yeah. The guys who pioneered rap, they did a lot of really good stuff. I mean, even Ice Baby was, at least amusing and entertaining. And there's some interesting new stuff that's out there. A lot of what I listen to now tends to be the solo chanteuse kind of thing, the Adron type of singer. I like her, with that kind of Brazil Tropicala flair that she plays the guitar with. And I liked her collaboration with Blair Crimmins. I like it when she plays with Blair and the Hookers, his band, the Hookers. But I like music that's musical, Yeah, mumble rap. Come on, man.
Cracked is asking, well, what are your thoughts on Nightwish? I like Nightwish.
Yeah, I like Nightwish. Not something that I've listened to as much as I probably could, but there's a lot of music that I wish I'd listened to more.
I'm glad Nickelback got back to their roots.
Nickelback gets dissed a lot, and let me say this about that. I'm people who know me. I've played the guitar for 60 years. I played in zillions of bands. I played banjo and guitar, and I'm pretty serious about it. and I know when a person can play the guitar, and I know when a band is good musically, and Nickelback is good.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell that to everybody right now. Those guys are more than competent at their instruments. They're actually quite good.
Ryan Peake is a great guitar player. I like Chad's voice. I really do.
Right.
Yeah. And he's a good rhythm guitar. He's a good rhythm guitar player. He can chord for sure.
He's competent anyway on the guitar, but he's
a better singer than
there for his voice.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they're more than competent at what they do, and when they do what they do best, I think they do it very well. So I can enjoy their stuff, and I enjoy watching them live. Actually.
They were great. I saw them live. They came to my city when they put out their album The Long Road back in 2004. And they put on a great show.
Yeah.
It was a great show. So, but we're at 11:23.
Yeah.
So I'm going
to have to run myself. So
yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for coming and listen to us talk and interact with us, and I had a lot of fun. And we'll be back to do the usual news stuff on Monday, and we'll be doing the Star Trek stream tomorrow night.
And what are we going to be? What episode are we doing?
We're doing Basics. That's Voyager season 2, episode 26, and season 3, episode 1. It's a two-parter.
It's a two-parter. It was the cliffhanger from season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Voyager season 2 cliffhanger. Okay. Yeah. Basics. All right. Because I got to rewatch that.
Yeah. So do I. I've watched it a lot, but I'm going to rewatch it again just. So
I've only ever watched it once, I think, all the way through.
It's actually my least favorite two-parter.
Really?
But we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. Thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see everybody tomorrow for Star Trek. I may do a gaming stream today, but I'm not sure, so we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys later. Everyone stay safe and have a great day. See you later, guys.
See you later, guys. Thanks for having me on, Blind.
No worries.